Hello, Global Village. Okay, today I want to talk about primarily Zoran Mandani and Bad Empanada, and whether or not his particular take on Zoran is justified, and whether or not I agree with it and why. Um, as a bit of background and I guess a slight digression, although I think I can kind of justify relating it to this overall conversation, I also want to talk about debating and the pros and cons of debates in general. Because it so happens, for example, Zoran demonstrates, in my opinion, an astonishing ability to navigate the invidious world of people who are essentially bad faith actors and trying to trap him into narratives and frames that that they can then use to basically demonize him. Anyway, keep that in mind when I offer my particular opinion about Mandani as versus Bad Empanada. Now, the thing about debates is that, or the most problematic aspect of a debate is that it's not always about who is on the right side and who is on the wrong side of the debate. It's often more about who is the better debater and who has the better skill at performing in an environment like that. So it is my opinion that often debates end up becoming almost just a form of entertainment, and rather than a mechanism upon which we can shed more insight and enlightenment about a topic of dispute. Now, it doesn't always have to be that way, and it's not as if debates can't be an effective and fruitful way for people to, develop insights into certain topical conversations. But it very much depends, I think, on the nature of the debate participants and whether they are, in fact, both acting in good faith. And it is more often than not that one or both of the participants are not acting in good faith, and it can spiral downhill very quickly from there. Now, I want to just present a little hypothetical here just to demonstrate how easy it is to derail a conversation with a bad faith actor. And I myself have been at the receiving end of exactly this kind of narrative technique. And it's something that I think is incredibly common, but it's worth highlighting. And what I'm going to do is just give a little hypothetical to frame this whole technique around. So let's imagine you were getting on a bus, and when you are giving your money to the bus driver, you noticed that their breath smelt of alcohol, and this made you feel very uncomfortable. So you go to the back of the bus and you sit down, and then a few minutes later, the bus driver goes through a red light and they have a nasty crash. And as a result, you find yourself in hospital with a broken leg. Now you are lying in your hospital bed and you get out your smartphone, and because you're addicted to social media, you log into Facebook. Let's go with the real shithole social media, even though Facebook's pretty shit. But let's go with Twitter. And you go onto Twitter. I just can't call it what Elon Musk wants to call it. And you post a tweet and you say, I'm in hospital with a broken leg because a drunk bus driver drove through a red light and caused a serious accident. And one of your so-called friends comes onto your tweet and replies, well, if you smelt their breath and were suspicious that they were intoxicated, why the hell did you get on the bus? It's all your fault. Now, let's just deconstruct that reply, because it's what I call the trifecta of bad faith arguments. So the first thing about that is you can call it victim blaming, because essentially it's putting the blame all on you and implying that it was all your fault that you were in that crash. You should have recognized when you smelt that he had alcohol in his breath that you should have just got straight off that bus. Now, it's also what I call pivoting away from the central point, because the comment did not address or acknowledge the obvious point of your tweet, which is that a bus driver who was intoxicated and in charge of the bus drove through a red light. So they didn't even acknowledge that aspect of the accident, and just made it completely your fault because you allowed yourself to be in that situation in the first place. And the last one is what I call constructing a straw man, because what they did was, instead of addressing the fact that the bus driver should not have been driving that bus while intoxicated, they simply instead framed it as something that you did wrong because you did not react appropriately given what you suspected to be happening. And now you will find yourself, if you want to have a discussion and effectively accept the framing of that person, you're now in a debate about why you did or did not get on a bus with a bus driver you thought may have been intoxicated. So yeah, that type of interaction is just incredibly common. And the sort of people that will do that are people that are acting, frankly, in bad faith. Because yes, you shouldn't have got on the bus. Perhaps that wasn't the wisest decision. But it doesn't change the fact that a bus driver should not be intoxicated and driving a bus. That's just not something that should happen. That's clearly wrong. And that is clearly the causative aspect of why there was a crash. Anyway, now that I've got that out of the way, I'm just going to play this little excerpt here, and then I'll just add my own thoughts on this.
This is an issue that I've been talking about a lot lately, and in this video we're going to be analyzing an interview question that was posed to the New York City Mayor, Zoran Mandani, who is a lifelong anti-Zionist activist who, lately has been dialing down his anti-Zionism quite a bit. And his answer to this question, which was really a masterclass in playing both sides of the issue. So let's check out this clip now, where Mamdani has posed the question of whether he supports Israel existing as a Jewish state.
And the idea of a Jewish state, Israel is a Jewish state, that's in the charter. That's the way it is now. Do you support that?
I've said time and again that I support the state of Israel as a state with equal rights. I believe that any state that preferences...
But as a Jewish state is the question.
I think any state that privileges one religion over the other is one that I can't tell you I support, whether it be Israel or Saudi Arabia or anywhere else. And a lot of that comes back to a fundamental belief that we should all be considered equal no matter what our faith is.
Now, I will include a link in the description to Bad Empanada's video here, so you can hear his analysis of this. And I'm just going to summarize his position, because it's been quite consistent with regards to Mandani. And that is that he feels Mandani is kind of selling out on his idealism, and that sort of apparently now that he's experienced success and is in a position of more power, that he's starting to become more of, basically what he's saying here is that, like many people who go through a system that is systemically corrupt, you become corrupted by the system simply by participating in it, and that ultimately he is seeing evidence of Mandani following down that same track, promising kind of revolution on one hand and then starting to become corrupted by the very system now that he's actually been successful in becoming an important part of it. Now, my honest view on Mandani is that whilst the jury is still out, I believe what we're witnessing here is a man who is a true believer in terms of his pro-Palestinian, I guess you would say, anti-Zionist stance. However, he is a very astute and clever player, and he understands he's engaging in a system that is deeply corrupt and that will lay traps for him every step of the way. And so, to a degree, I think he is playing the game in a way that he feels he needs to play the game in order to continue to succeed and climb the ladder and engage in what is basically a cesspit. He's been invited to a mud wrestling match in many respects, and he's playing an astute game. He's playing some 5D chess. So I'm not ready to just write Mandani off as someone who's going to ultimately just become another sellout. I think like AOC seems to be an example of that. Someone who, in many respects, represents the kind of just the horrific reality of so many Democrats who pander and patronize their own audience by pretending to care about stuff, whereas in reality they are completely beholden to the lobbyists and the oligarchs and the large corporate entities that really control the money, and they're not working for the people who voted them in ultimately. They're working for other interests, and they're just applying a form of crowd control on their own constituents. And yeah, people like that kind of disgust me. But I'm not willing to classify Mandani as going down that road. I just kind of don't believe it. And in fact, I listened to a very, very interesting interview between Mandani's father and I think it was on Al Jazeera where they were interviewing him. And he provided a tremendous amount of insight into who Mandani is and how he has learnt from the struggles and the journey of his own parents. And he's been a wise student. So no, I actually think Bad Empanada is wrong here, and I think he's taking a slightly unreasonably cynical position, although I can kind of understand why, because we've seen it play out so many times before. If I have any out-and-out criticism of Bad Empanada, it's that he has kind of like this purity test, which it's virtually impossible for anyone else to ever meet up to. For example, I've seen him absolutely lambast Owen Jones. And I don't know if you've actually listened to Owen Jones and his channel, but really, in terms of someone who's arguably sort of adjacent to kind of mainstream media discourse, in the UK at least, he is about as strong a supporter of the Palestinian people as you could really expect to get. He's very unapologetic in the way he calls out the establishment, calls out their support for the genocide. So I'm not really sure what more you can expect from him. And if he were to go much further, he would probably not be able to engage in mainstream at all. Would never be invited to as a foil against typical Zionist talking heads, which he often is, and often does, in my opinion, a very good job. Just demonstrating a bit of humanity and a bit of compassion. And he's quite, he's quite combative. He's really quite courageous and willing to really go and into the fire. So yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. But that said, the reason why I like listening to Bat Empanada is that he is just a fantastic analyst. He breaks things down very well, and he really is tremendously unapologetic in just calling a spade, and providing clear rationalization as to why he thinks the way he does, why certain things are not in fact anti-Semitic, even though they've been claimed as such. But I do wish that he would focus his energies a little more on the actual subject at hand, rather than engaging in sort of petty squabbles sometimes with people who are often on the same side he is. Anyway, that's pretty much all I've got to say. Bendy out.